Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're watching AMTV Alternative Media Television. Please share this video out far and wide. I have some breaking emergency news. Please follow me on Twitter for the latest updates at AMTV Media. Breaking now. 11, this is a direct quote, 11, according to the DoD, the Defense Department here in the United States, Donald Trump will be making an announcement soon. 11 military bases near major airports in the United States are setting up quarantine centers for what they call possible coronavirus patients. The Department of Defense said the Department of Health and Human Services asked the Pentagon for quarantine space in case, get this, beds fill up at other coronavirus centers around the country, according to an official DoD statement. Additionally, the Pentagon already agreed to house up to 1,000 plus people for quarantine after they return to the United States from areas with the virus, according to the Associated Press. All links in the description. Please investigate for yourself. Article after article confirming this report. Now, again, what came out earlier today, which we've been warning here at AMTV, is up to 60 to 80% of the human population on the planet. There's over 7 billion people worldwide. 60 to 80% could be infected with the coronavirus, which they just came up with the name today, according to health experts. Exclusive public health official says other countries, should consider adopting China-style containment measures. So now, just like we predicted, just like what we warned about, just like we were very, very concerned about, we have over 500 plus million people in quarantine in China. Right, we've shown you the graphic images of people throwing themselves or being pushed out of buildings yesterday. People kicking and screaming as the thought police, the modern-day concentration camp gulags, are in the secret police in China are rounding people up into moving vans, throwing them in jail. Now, what if you don't have the infection? The Chinese government has now threatened the death penalty to anybody that does not admit that they potentially may or may not have exposure to the virus. And now this quarantines coming to the United States of America and being set up now outside of U.S. airports. Now this is very, very alarming. The coronavirus epidemic had spread to about 2/3 of the world's population if it cannot be controlled, according to Hong Kong's leading public health official. His warning came after the head of the World Health Organization, WHO, said recent cases of coronavirus patients who had never visited China could just be the tip of the iceberg. According to Professor Gabriel Ling, and I'll put a link to his page as well, the chair of public health medicine at Hong Kong University, said the overriding question was to figure out the size and shape of the iceberg. Most experts thought that each person infected would go on to transmit the virus to about 2.5 other people. That gave a, quote, an attack rate of 60 to 80%. Isn't it amazing how significant they're now warning of the infection rate actually is? And based on the estimates we've reported here at AMTV Alternative Media Television, there is a mortality rate of anywhere between 15 to 30%. So if we have over 7 billion plus people on this planet, we're talking billion plus people could die as a result of the coronavirus. Quote, 60% of the world's population is an awfully big number, he says. According to The Guardian in London, en route to an expert meeting at the World Health Organization in Geneva on Tuesday. So they show the exponential rate of infection, the fatality rates here. Again, I'll put all links in the description box below. Very, very alarming. Shows confirmed cases of the coronavirus. And then it goes on to say, is 60 to 80% of the world's population going to be infected? And then they talk again about the mortality and planned rate of death, according to some of those statistics. Now, by the way, the virus itself will die if it kills everybody, right? If everyone just dies, and the virus will naturally just extinguish itself because it's going to kill the host. So the question we need to ask now, with the quarantine of 500 plus million people in China, the quarantine concentration camps being set up here in the United States, according to the Pentagon and the DoD, have these measures stopped the infection rate, or is it not doing anything? I mean, again, if 60 to 80% of the human population is going to get this thing, then why are people even being quarantined? Now, we talked about how this quelled the protests in China. that the premier, Mr. Xi, was very, very afraid of, seeing all the protests in Hong Kong, people demanding liberty and freedom, and people marching in the streets. Isn't it strange that all of a sudden people aren't allowed to get out of their houses? They're not allowed to go to shopping malls. They're not allowed to take the metro or a bus or an airplane. Everybody's locked in their home. And now this is happening in the United States of America. According to the San Diego Union Tribune, the CDC mistakenly removed San Diego's first positive coronavirus case from a hospital. So they actually allowed someone mistakenly, they say, who had the coronavirus leave the hospital and then go out to infect thousands, if not millions of people. Link in the description box below, showing just the absolute idiocy of public health officials and our local hospitals here in the United States. But this is key. According to the Department of Defense, the military has mass quarantine camps set up all over the United States. The United States military set up mass quarantine camps in the United States to hoard people into. The Department of Defense has confirmed that the U.S. is following in China's footsteps. Areas to quarantine those infected with the coronavirus quickly become small places similar to concentration camps and gulags. With China now forcing people from their homes and into mass quarantine camps, might not be long before the police state in the U.S. comes crashing in to protect and serve the public. And it goes on to say if you're traveling, a face mask is recommended, and it is good to hand wash multiple times with very hot water to prevent the contraction of the virus. Also very, very interesting, only adding proof to the pudding. Again, all links in the description. Also have an article here referencing the Pentagon setting up these quarantine military bases in and around airports. That is according to the Charlotte Observer. Also have a DoD statement on additional request form HHS referring to all this as well. But it was really interesting. An article came from CNBC.com, says that the coronavirus appears only to be killing adults, not children. So let me get this straight. The virus infects only thinking adults that they want to quell and potentially depopulate, but then lives the moldable, preformed minds of kids. Like, do you understand what I'm saying here? This plays into what many people have theorized is a depopulation agenda to get rid of people, to quell protests, to quell uprisings. And then children aren't affected. You can look at the report here. It says the new coronavirus, officially named COVID-19, has sickened more than 43,000 people worldwide. Those reports are very underreported. But very few children appear to be among the confirmed cases. About 80% of people who died from the virus in China were over the age of 60, and 75% had pre-existing conditions, according to a recent report from China's National Health Commission. So here's the question. Is what many people believe to be a biological weapon, a form of euthanasia, to depopulate the human population from 7 billion plus people? You know what we see in the Georgia Guidestones, 500 million people or less, the stones set up by the elites. And I tweeted this. Also, too, fantastic news. Household debt jumps the most in 12 years, according to the Federal Reserve, especially with 2/3 of the economy making up consumer spending. This should mean that the stock market should continue skyrocketing, right? I mean, I'm being facetious. I'm kind of joking here, but isn't it interesting that the coronavirus only kills the adults? All the weak minds of children are allowed to survive. Biological weapon confirmed. I tweet this. Depopulation agenda confirmed. So again, I want to hear your thoughts, questions, comments in the box below. Please share this. They definitely don't want this message getting out there. They don't want you to share the truth. They do want to censor this video and all the videos talking about the coronavirus. They certainly don't want you to panic now that it's official. The Department of Defense, Pentagon, I have all the links in the description. You can read for yourself, are setting up military quarantine camps here in the United States of America. This is anti-constitutional, by the way. It is a violation of your human rights. Maybe they can do this in China with an authoritarian regime, but in the United States, can you imagine men with guns coming to your doorstep and then if you refuse to be thrown into a van, to be taken to a jail, a concentration camp like what they set up for Japanese Americans during World War II, where if you're not already infected, you will be infected by this deadly disease in a camp where you can't leave, or a quarantine on a cruise ship, you're not allowed to go anywhere? Can you imagine what this is going to look like in the United States of America if we don't take action now, if we're not prepping now for this inevitability? Again, I pray for all you guys. Please share this message. I pray this message reaches as many people as possible. So please like it and share it. Understand this is the truth. We've been warning about this at AMTV, a 60 to 80% potential infection rate, 1 billion plus people dead as a result of this. These are not my words. This is according to public health officials, folks. So don't take my word for it. Don't believe me. Read all these articles for yourself. Read the health officials coming up with these numbers. Read the Pentagon and DoD reports setting up these mass quarantine concentration gulag camps here in the United States of America. Again, anti-constitutional. It's a violation of human rights. All of you, myself included, need to be preparing now and understand this has happened in the horrors of history's past. Concentration camps are not a new thing here in the United States of America. It wasn't just Japanese Americans that they rounded up. It wasn't just Jews that they rounded up during World War II in Nazi Germany. This is happening again. They're blaming the coronavirus, what many of us believe to be a biological weapon that only affects the elderly and kills adults, not children. Isn't that interesting? How is a child's immune system immune to the virus? It's because it's a biological terror weapon, like we warned about here weeks and weeks and weeks ago, and we told you would be the #1 story in the world. This is spiraling out of control. It's going to get much, much worse. Plan on more infection rates. And look, the actions speak louder than words. Concentration camps, obviously they know something you don't. Pay attention to the stock market. We were going to have an absolute imminent collapse at any moment. They had to inject, the Federal Reserve injected 2 bailouts today just to keep things afloat. And it was only up, I think, like 100 points or something like that. So we are in a very, very dire situation. Keep in mind that in 1918, with the flu, after the soldiers came home from the Great War, we had huge populations dead, not just here in the United States and Europe. The Black Death, the great plague of history's past, took out like 2/3 of the European population. This has happened before. And now, knowing that this is potentially a manufactured bioterror weapon, we can only imagine the damage that this can do on human beings and their immune systems. And seeing it spread to the masses like this truly is shocking